Hello, everybody. This is Armchair GMs with another episode. I'm ready today. We're brought to you by Jocks of All Trades Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bugman J. Here's my buddy Matt.
I'm Matt.
Yes, sir. And I'm just gonna start it off kind of wacky a little bit. I posted on Twitter today about a episode that's most likely going to be in the future, especially when as training camp is getting underway. As of Monday, every team has officially started training camps. I think Las Vegas and another team might have been a couple of days early, but who would be your top sleeper right now? Doesn't have to be a specific, I'm not speaking of specific, just general, your general top sleeper.
We're talking team or player here?
We're talking player.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I kind of want to pick the obvious person right here, someone who I think is going to kind of shine. Obviously, depending on if he can if he can stay away from the injury bug. I would almost say Rashard Penny right now, honestly, especially after we just found out yesterday that Chris Carson is retiring.
Yes.
After, it's unfortunate. I know it has a lot to do with that neck injury he sustained last season, just some complications from that. But I don't know, man. I got to go with Rashard Penny here. I mean,
I can agree with you on that one. Definitely, the major thing with Rashad Penny, his first year, he's spent it on the IL, and then the second year he battled a lot of injuries as well. Couldn't truly solidify that number one running back spot, and I feel like this year he's still lingering a little bit. I heard in minicamp, him and Kenneth Walker III were both hurt during minicamp, but at the end of minicamp, Kenneth Walker was the only one that was still hurt. So I'm really on the fence about Rashad Penny because I feel like he has the clearest path of getting his position taken away from him outside of maybe Devin Singletary. But Rashad Penny's a good one. I went with kind of a true sleeper in Robert Woods. A lot of people are sleeping on him also because he has a history of injury as well. I feel like he's gonna require, not really require, but kind of put himself in the position to get a lot of short yardage catches, a lot of those slot route position because he is shifty and he does have really good hands. He played very well with Jared Goff as well as last year with Matthew Stafford. So he's kind of put in that kind of category of maybe quarterback proof, but he also has a tendency to be very flashy on a couple weeks, off a couple weeks. But I feel with Tennessee's offense more focused on, I would say, going with the sure hands because they do also have a rookie wide receiver. So it's going to be kind of I believe they got Traylon Burks. So it's going to be kind of transition for him. So I can see Robert Woods for the first couple of weeks being wide receiver one for that offense, and that will bode very well for his ADP, especially through the first couple of weeks. He may not be there all 17 games, but he's pretty good. So that's my vote. I'm sorry. That was a little spill.
I will throw out one wild card there to go along with it. And I don't know if I would almost call it a sleeper. I would almost call it as a overperformer. I'm going with David Montgomery as well. I know we talked about it a couple weeks back how, the Chicago Bears organization as a whole is kind of a
cultureless
kind of a joke right now. Yeah. But I mean, you look at their wide receiver core and it's nothing flashy
at all. Darnell Mooney, outside of Darnell Mooney and Colt Kmet's touchdown dependent style of play,
and N'Keal Harry. I mean, he hasn't really lived up to the hype as well.
No, he has not.
I see David Montgomery kind of shouldering the load for that entire offense. And, that's why I say I don't really see it as a sleeper. I see it more as an overperformer, but it
Mhm.
also depends on what Chicago's offensive line can do for him, which, I mean, we
Okay.
saw what they did last year and wasn't really impressive.
Now,
So,
now that you're saying that, looking at some of the running backs that are going around the same time as David Montgomery, would you take David Montgomery over Kareem Hunt?
no, I don't even have to think about it. I would
Well,
take him.
what about in non PPR?
Non PPR, I would feel comfortable taking David Montgomery over Kareem Hunt.
I feel like he'll get the touches.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's what I was going to say. He'll get the touches, but
he won't
no,
really. I don't really see him as a pass catching running back. So I feel like he's kind of limited to only being played. I don't look at him in PPR at all because there's not enough efficiency there, even in half PPR. But if I was in a non PPR setting, then he probably would be, RB 12, 13 on my list. But there's still a lot of running backs that are ahead of him, that some even that split time that would possibly be more effective than him. But it also would have to go along with how well does Justin Fields transition in season 2, because if they get behind, his touches may evaporate in the second half. And I don't know if I'd be too keen to look to him in a pinch.
mm-hmm.
But he's got
I
flex
mean,
consideration in my book in non
I'm
PPR.
hopeful for Justin Fields. I mean, I blame Matt Nagy for that whole disaster
Yeah.
for last year. I mean, I think he was just. I think he knew he was going to be canned after the season anyway. So I think he just kind of had that 1 foot out the door mentality. It's like, all
Yeah, he
right, I'm
just
going to blow this
torpedoed
up as much as possible.
and I can believe it, because you could see it in the lack of development, or I could say you combat the lack of development of your rookie quarterback along with you handcuffing him to a below average quarterback and flip flopping back and forth, not really being decisive. You can tell he really didn't really feel like he had to make a decision between the two, until the GM stepped in. But
Mm-hmm.
and now we have Ryan Pace in Atlanta, and now we're attracting all of that. Whatever some people will call it talent, others would call it something else, but like me, but it's just the culture was all wrong, and they needed a reset. But it's still going to be a prove it year for a lot of the guys on that offense. How well did they pick up that offensive line? It's just a lot, and I'm just very fearful of putting myself into the even Justin Fields lottery. Like, even if he was a waiver wire addition, there are some quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa I have higher than Justin Fields. Obviously, I have Trey Lance higher than Justin Fields. I even have Ryan Tannehill above him just because of the lack of consistency in the whole organization. But that's another conversation for another day. Before we get started today, we got the ads. Buddy Matt's going to take down the ads today for us, and we're going to just get it started.
All right. So our first ad comes from our friend over at Fresh Cuts. Fresh Cuts is a local barbershop in Marion, Indiana. Contact Caleb Kemper for an appointment time through www.freshcutsbarbershop.com. It's not just a haircut, it's an experience. Move on to our next one. Steve Wood Illustrations. Here for all your art needs from Star Wars to G.I. Joe and beyond. See him for all your nerds in your life who aren't sure what to get. Listen, I think we're all nerds here. I know I was breaking out my D&D dice when I was doing mock drafts earlier today. Just rolled that, and it's like, all right, put myself here. So, Hey, I'm a nerd. I'm not afraid to admit it.
There you
I
go. Hey,
relish that.
you gotta respect the nerds, man. We're the new cool
Exactly.
guys. That's my 2022. Nerds are the new cool guys. There we go.
Let's see. We have our friends from Afro Latinos. They are changing things up. Check out the Culture Corner podcast featuring Auburn and Shaylin, and hear from them soon as they are still under construction. And our next slide. Rules of the Frame is another friend cast specializing in movie reviews of pretty much everything and anything that is out there. Connor will soon be a guest on our show, Smash Popcorn, and we look forward to collabing with them. Then we also have our friends from A Thousand Whys of Weird. Thousand Whys of Weird is just that, weird. From reviews of weird movies to criticizing bad movies, Brad H. and Billy Martell will keep you entertained and laughing for hours on end. Check them out exclusively on Spotify.
And I believe we are done with the ads today. Good job, Matt. Out of all the podcasts in our podcast family, I'd have to be very biased. I'm pretty sure you can agree with me on this, Matt, that our podcast is by far the best podcast on the Jocks of All Trades podcast family. I'm just going to say
I'm a little biased here too, but yeah.
Nah, but
yeah,
on the real,
I'm going to show a little bias as well.
We love our podcast family, and we just want to try to give you guys the best from all different perspectives, and I think we pretty much do that. But I think me and you should just stick to our jobs and let's just look at the stats. Now, today,
oh yeah,
I'm going to be going over our first mock draft of the 2022 NFL season. All right, this is our preseason mock, as we talked about earlier. We have training camp has started. It has begun. We have guys on the pup list to get started on the year. How's that going to influence our draft? We've done PPR and standard non-PPR leagues, which I can honestly tell you, I'm a PPR guy. I love PPR, whether it's half PPR, 6 point per passing touchdown league, 4 point, doesn't matter. I love my PPR. I love Superflex. I've gotten to Scott Fishbowl leagues this year for the first time, and Dynasty League, my first Dynasty League as well. But with the standard non-PPR, it was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean,
it's a lot more to consider.
I've been so used. I mean, I did standard non-PPR like my standard non-PPR fantasy football, like just starting out, because I didn't know anything about it. But then like once I got into year 2, it was just like, all right, let's see about this PPR. And to me, the PPR made much more sense. And it was just like, yes, this is a lot. Like, this is how you get a lot of points this way. However, with the non-PPR, it was a little challenging for me. I really had to think about it. So
yes,
hopefully what our mock drafts look like can help you guys out there, and determining like where to go in certain situations depending on what pick you guys have in your leagues.
There you go. All right, so we're gonna get it started. I got my stats lined up. I got a couple sleeper stats that I think you're really gonna like. I didn't get a good grade on my non-PPR, we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but we're going to get started with our PPR picks. I can tell you one thing that I could honestly see what you were trying to make when you put your team together. And I got to kind of say, I kind of like your picks, even Miles Sanders being on your bench, because he is technically a starter with no one to take the reps away from him but himself. You can say Kenneth Gainwell has a chance, but if you've ever seen Kenneth Gainwell start a game, you wouldn't say that again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was honestly, it was a late round or like a later round pick for me. Like, I think I actually picked him up in like the 8th. I want to say it was the 8th round. And it was just like,
Round.
okay, I need another option for running back. So it's just like, let's just pick up Miles Sanders at this point. Once you get in those later rounds, it almost gets, especially in a 12-team PPR, it kind of gets to where it's slim pickings for the most part. And it's just like, all right, at this point, who is my best option to kind of start, in place of, my in place of my main running backs, which are Aaron Jones and James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, well, Miles Sanders, he's not a every week starter, but he
Situational starter.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, all right, let's just pick him and go from there. I can tell you I would kind of prefer Nyheim Hines over Miles Sanders in certain situations. I'm a little biased on that, though, because the past couple of years I've had him on PPR leagues, and he's gotten me points, in those situations. And it's just like, all right, cool. Where did these points come from? Oh, came from my flex.
All right.
But I was looking at yours,
Mm-hmm.
and what kind of shocked me was seeing James White on there, because the reason being, because I thought nothing bad about him. It was just like I thought he was retired. So that's why it kind of shocked me. It was just like, is he still playing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year was.
I know he kind of had an injury last year to where he yeah.
Just go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's why I was a little shocked. It was like, it wasn't like a shock, like a bad thing. It was just like, oh, hey, I forgot about James White. That's why I was surprised by it.
Now I'm using. I gotta put out my kind of whatever. I'm losing my words today. Stick with me. I use Fantasy Football Calculator, which is kind of gives me a consensus rankings. I'm going to tell you, I love Fantasy Pros and I love Fantasy Football Calculator because they can give you consensus and then they can break it down and tell you what each person said, and you get a better understanding of why they feel that way. And then I can take my time and look at YouTube videos and watch a little bit of their play and kind of predict, as we all do, where we can't all be 100% right. But I feel like James White has an opportunity right now, and the scale of running backs consensus, he's going as the 67th running back off the board. So that's round 10 or later. And most, sometimes he's not even drafted. He's just picked up. And why not bring in a guy who could potentially, in PPR leagues, which I was drafting for, he has a chance to get reception yards. He may only get 5 to 7 rushing downs a game, but screenplays, quick outs, short little intermediate routes for wide receivers. Running backs, he's very good at that. And that's the reason they kept him around as long as they have, because he is effective at that one thing. And if Bill Belichick's offense has ever taught you anything, that if you're really good at something, he'll keep you around to do what you're really good at. He doesn't try to play players outside of their realm. He'll try to expand their role a little bit if he can. But if you're utilization only, that is a good spot to be in. And in PPR leagues, every pass you catch gives you opportunity to score. And that's what I'm doing.
I was gonna say, like, I was looking at your picks from your PPR, and looking at your bench. You have Kareem Hunt, you have Ronald Jones, you have James White. 3, in my opinion, decent running backs to get you a lot of receptions, which in essence gets you some points. Are they going to put up flashy numbers? No. But sometimes in a PPR league, those, let's just say 6, 7, 8, heck, even 10 points make all the difference, after receptions and or receiving yards.
Yeah. He only played.
But let's see.
Back on James, for a second, hold on. Before we leave James White only played 3 games last year. But in those 3 games, in those 3 games, he averaged 12 fantasy points, 18.5 fantasy points, and 0.6 fantasy points. Obviously, the third game is the game that he got hurt. But consistently, he's garnished at least. Oh, goodness, that is not what he does. Wow. He's a pretty good reception back, change of pace back, from what I'm seeing. So, if you can see the opportunity he got with Mac Jones, how often he was used in the beginning, if he is on the pup list, so that's why he was pretty far down. I think he was like maybe my 15th round pick. So if he's sitting there around 15 and there's nothing else around him besides fill-in starter tight ends, why not take him? And that was some of my philosophy with a lot of the guys. I kind of want to go in a direction of, what was your first pick?
My first pick, I got lucky enough to take Aaron Jones.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
It shocked me. I was just like, okay. And, now keep in mind, that was pick 12. And,
oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, okay, first off, before we get into it, let's talk about our favorite positions to pick in, in drafts.
Oh,
are you one of those guys that likes to pick first or middle of the pack, or pick at the last, let's just say 12 out of 12?
My sweet spot is usually between 4 and 7.
Okay.
Because like today, my PPR league, I picked at 5, and I was able to get Cooper Kupp, and that was who I was going for. So I like 4 to 7, maybe down farther to 9. There's still pretty good talent. So I don't usually like to be first, because I want to kind of see what everybody else is doing before I make my decision. Because you got Aaron Jones in the first round, I got Aaron Jones at the end of the second round. So that is why I like to pick a little bit later, because you see where the priorities of the people picking around you, and their priorities may help you or they may hurt you, because I can start to see, okay, all right, I want to go running back heavy like I did in this one. I want to go running back heavy, but I want to pick the top wide receiver first. So that means I'm not picking a running back until the second round. But if I see that running backs are coming off the board pretty fast, I may change my perspective a little bit to try to kind of put together how I'm going to put my team together. But sometimes you don't ever come out that lucky. The first 2 drafts I did for this year, I was first.
Mm-hmm.
And I still picked Cooper Kupp. But we're going to talk about that later. But what about you?
For me, I like picking later, like in that 9, 10, 11, even 12, because then, my philosophy is, if you're picking first in a 12-team PPR snake draft, you got your first pick, but then you're not picking again until, you have 23 picks to wait, and a lot can happen.
Yes. A lot can happen.
So for me personally, I like picking in the latter parts, if your first round, because then it's just all right, for me personally, I like to build my strategy around that. For instance, Aaron Jones was my first pick, and then I pick right after that, I get Devontae Adams. So it's just right there, I got 2 decent studs that are going to potentially give me a lot of points.
Okay, now let me ask you this question, and then we're going to kind of get into a little bit of the stats on a couple of guys in the higher rounds and maybe some sleepers that we have on our team. Nice pick of Drake London, by the way. I was going my next pick. I waited on the wrong person. I felt like he would still be there when I picked 8 picks later, but he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone, and it pissed me off. But anyway, what position do you like to be the strongest at in far as fantasy football?
I think it depends on the league that I'm in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's kind of like, everyone thinks that fantasy leagues are all the same. It's like, no, not really. I mean, there's one league that I'm in where the running back kind of gets like it benefits to have a very decent running back or two. There's no league I'm in where quarterback play literally makes all the difference. Um, I think for me personally, I would rather be heavy on running backs
Mm-hmm.
than anything else. The reason being is because with running backs, PPR, non PPR, whichever you want to go with, I feel like if you don't have a solid running back or two solid running backs,
Mm-hmm.
then that kind of determines like how your season is going to go. Like it may start off strong, but then at the latter part of the season,
You make that out a
whether
little
it
bit.
be through injury bugs or load management, however you want to, word it, I feel like that makes all the difference. So for me personally, I would rather have an abundance of running backs over anything else.
Okay.
So
I'm
what about you?
I'm kind of halfway. I'm kind of on the fence with that. If anything, my philosophy is pretty simple when it comes to picking running backs. As far as I want one like stud, which in this choice would be Aaron Jones for me, and I need one running back. So I would be comfortable running Kareem Hunt as my number two because I know he's going to get a consistent share of the change of pace, pass downs. He's also going to get opportunities to run because Nick Chubb does not catch passes. He is a traditional running back. So it's my philosophy is at least to have one certified starter because I find a lot of times that I do, in the latter parts of the season I win a lot of times by transition, waiver wire picks because running back is a revolving door of potential. You know, that's consistently been the thing because last year it was Cordero Patterson. He was the running back that kind of had a breakout season. Luckily for me, it was on my team, but also on the other end of that spectrum, it didn't do us any good in the win department. But I digress. So for me, I'm really hard on wide receivers. I'm really hard. I like to use wide receivers in my flex. I don't like to use running backs in my flex position unless I have just an abundance of running backs and I just have to stick him somewhere, or it may be matchup dependent because a lot of my leagues, my Yahoo league, it's a lot harder to separate yourself if you don't have good wide receivers. But in my ESPN league, running backs are normally the best flexes because it's just the way the league's set up, especially in the 12 team league. It's going to be very hard for you to get three quality wide receivers at any given point because there are just not as many as there are serviceable running backs, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So, but I do also like to draft potential, but I won't go overboard with it. I will cut the cord on a project like say if Drake London's not making any headway after week 5, I'm cutting. Or I'm trying to trade him. I'm just making moves. I'm a
I
true.
actually have a funny. Go on ahead. I have a funny story about the Drake London pick here in a segment. Go on ahead.
No, I'm done. You're good.
Okay, so when I drafted Drake London, you're going to find this hilarious. It was a toss up. I really had to think hard about this. Read my sarcasm there. It was between Drake London and Kenny Galladay.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so it's like,
That choice was the hardest choice of your life right there, bud.
I know. Oh man.
All right,
So
let's go ahead.
I'm looking at more of your picks. So if your first pick was Aaron Jones, or no, I'm sorry, Cooper Kupp was your first, and then Aaron Jones was your second. Who's your third though?
I believe my third pick might have been Michael Pittman Jr. And
Okay.
I'm new on him. It's a new thing. But what I'm kind of banking, the reason I stepped up, because it was really either, it was Michael Pittman, Josh Jacobs was there. Um, DK Metcalf was floating around. And as you can see, DK Metcalf and Josh Jacobs were still there. Well, yeah, they were still there. So my fourth and fifth pick became a lot easier. But Michael Pittman is just a clear number one. He had a good season last year with a mediocre quarterback in Carson Wentz. I'm completely certain in my mind that Matt Ryan will be at least 2 times better than Carson Wentz was for that team because he'll be more consistent. He may not blow you away with the numbers, but he will get the opportunists the ball. And I feel like Michael Pittman has enough youth. He's plenty of youth, to be exact, to be able to get to any pass that Matt Ryan's can throw at him because he's, for all the knocks on Matt Ryan, he is uber consistent. And that is what you need for a player like Michael Pittman. You need someone who can believe in him, who will consistently get him the ball, who will not put him in positions where, there's a term that are called risky passes, interceptable balls. Matt Ryan doesn't throw many interceptable balls. If he goes on a tandem, it's because his mechanics are off. It's because the offensive line isn't picking up. It's because of the pressure. You know what I mean? That's his big niche too. But he is mobile. So I feel like he'll get Michael Pittman the ball. Sorry for being long on that one. But
No, you're good. I mean, I see the potential of Michael Pittman anyway. I mean, I think he's going to have a great year. I mean, like you said, you're going to have a much more consistent quarterback in Matt Ryan this year than what you had in Carson Wentz last year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I definitely see the potential. Michael Pittman, is it going to be like career best type of season for him this year? I don't think so, but I think you're going to see a much more improved type of player that he is, as far as getting open and the targets, the receptions, so on and so forth. I could somewhat see how. Yeah, I can somewhat see how his season is just going to be so much more of an improvement than what last year was.
It's just all about getting those receiving touchdowns up. That's the main thing. It was kind of hit or miss the first couple of weeks, and then it started to pick up, and then it died away again as the season progressed. But he's a consistent catcher. He gets the targets. At least I'm seeing at least 5 targets a game. He's been 5 for 5 once, 4 for 4, 6 of 8, 8 of 12. Last game of the year, he was 6 for 6. So his fantasy production is at a positive. His target share is going to also be pretty high, which is something that's very encouraging for a new quarterback working with their wide receiver. I hope they can build a rapport in training camp. I've heard good things so far. Nothing to blow your socks off, obviously, but I want to see once the preseason starts.
I was going to say, I'm looking at his projections right now through a spreadsheet that I use, and he's projected to have 277 points.
Which would put him
15 on my spreadsheet.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, I mean, top 15 wide receiver with an aging quarterback like that. If he can pull off those numbers, I mean, I think the future is bright for Michael Pittman.
I can definitely feel that. Now, what were your first? We went through my first 5 rounds. What were your first 5 rounds?
Okay, so for me, first pick was Aaron Jones. Second was Devontae Adams. Mm-hmm. I had to wait until it got back around to me. So third was James Conner.
Okay, that was someone that was in range with Michael Pittman when I was picking.
Fourth, I'm a little high on. I'll admit that, but I took Kyle Pitts.
Good pick.
reason why I say a little high on that is because, I mean, I don't like to take tight ends that early. I mean, I usually kind of wait around till like 5th or 6th. So, I mean, not really the end of the world. But fifth round pick for me was Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Well,
So,
Lamar Jackson. I got Jalen.
Lamar Jackson was
You want to know where I got Jalen Hurts?
where at?
8th round.
Ooh,
Yes. See, that's
actually
it's pretty low. He's all right. As far as from fantasy football calculator, they have Jalen Hurts. It's not as high as I thought. Let me back it down. Wow, this list is ever going. Lamar Jackson's going at 51. Going down, they have him going 67th overall, which would put him in a 12 PPR league around round 5, 4 or 5. So to get him at round 8, that had to be my best value of the day, right there. That had to be my hands down best value. Now that makes it like that a lot easier.
He's projected to be 9th in fantasy at the season's end with 326 points,
and that's what I'm banking on. Now I'm gonna throw something out here. I'm gonna throw a stat at you about Jalen Hurts. He has the 3rd easiest schedule of any quarterback this year. 3rd easiest schedule. He has AJ Brown, who's uber efficient. He was 4th overall in yards per route run. So, I've talked ad nauseum about him when we were doing our wide receiver rankings because I feel very highly on his ability to play anywhere. The only knack on him is health-wise, and I'm just really, really banking on the development of Jalen Hurts. They have a good offensive line, 2-headed run game with Jalen Hurts going to take uber reps at rushing. He was 1st in rushing yards for quarterback last year, ahead of Lamar Jackson. So you have to look at that, and if they continue to run that offense that way, he's gonna produce in fantasy because he's gonna produce with his arm. He's gonna also produce with his leg and give you bonus touchdowns. And in PPR, that's what you need. You need those bonus touchdowns. You need those opportunities to kind of because your point scale depends on he's actually projected to be better in 4-point per passing leagues than 6, which I kind of halfway don't understand it, but it makes sense in some kind of way. So there's Lamar Jackson as well. It's just I feel like Lamar Jackson has less to work with, and that's going to hurt him a little bit. And with him,
there's a reason why I picked up my other quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, which I got him in 9th round, which that was my steal of the day was Aaron Rodgers in the 9th round. It's like what?
Yeah, I also play by the insurance policy. I got Matthew Stafford in I think the 11th or 12th round. You know, for a bag of I got him for a bag of peanuts as an insurance policy because there's going to be weeks where he's gonna have his time too. But throwing as many touchdowns, he threw 41 touchdowns last year, and I think he was maybe QB 17, 4,700 yards, but because he doesn't run the ball,
right?
But okay, all right.
Crazy stat though. Talking about Jalen Hurts potentially finishing, 9th. Crazy stat for you. That is above the likes of Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Matthew Stafford.
Huh. There you go.
So he's got some big shoes to fill, but I think Jalen Hurts can do it. I think he has the weapons. He's mobile. Yes. He can make it happen. It's just I hope for his sake the pressure doesn't
push him too far.
Yeah.
And that's one of those other things too that you have to. I've thought about. I feel like If you look back when he was playing at Alabama and he lost his starting job to Tua, you know how he kept going, and when he went and played, you know, in Oklahoma, what kind of season he turned around there. So you see that the potential for him to even if he has a setback to come back and go harder at it, and that's the kind of thing you need in the quarterback. Uh-oh. And
That was my mistake.
and that's something that I really look at. I want to look at your flex. You pick Tyler Boyd, who's the number 3 wide receiver on the depth chart for Cincy. What were you thinking? What were you thinking there?
At that point, it was best available because that was my 7th round pick. No, yeah, I think that was my 7th round pick.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, it was just like pick, you know, best
Most
available.
upside. Yeah, I feel he has upside because if there's an injury to the one or the two, I think 1 through 3 they probably have. I've said this before. They probably have the best starting caliber wide receiver group in the NFL right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You could argue that they have some of the best talent by far in T. Higgins, because before Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins were who they were, I mean T. Higgins and Jamar Chase were who they were. Tyler Boyd was there with Andy Dalton doing all the grunt work, you know, and he was uber efficient with the likes of Andy Dalton. I feel like he can do the same thing with the quarterback they have now. I'm losing names right now. But okay.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
DK Metcalf. I picked DK Metcalf, even though it's either Drew Lock or Geno Smith quarterbacking this year. I think he might be quarterback proof, and I don't think any of them are bad enough to take him out of being an option. Play him at flex. You know, I could pull him out and put somebody else in. You know, but I think he could be a consistent part of the offense. I don't necessarily see him as wide receiver 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he could be wide receiver 3.
I don't hate it.
No,
I don't hate it. I love the pick of DK Metcalf for your flex. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: with the retirement of Chris Carson,
mm-hmm.
and the running back position is, we'll call it shaky in Seattle right now. Would you, if you're Pete Carroll, consider utilizing DK Metcalf in a Deebo Samuel type of way?
No. And the reason I say that is because DK is not the best at staying healthy and being on the field. And I think that would just add more risk than reward. And that's just not how Pete Carroll's offense works. You know, they're not really that gadgety when it comes to running, using wide receivers as running backs, or even doing wide receiver screens for that matter. Anybody outside of Tyler Lockett, I think Pete Carroll's more role based, and that would just kind of muddy up a situation with already having uncertainty at quarterback. I don't think they can handle putting him in that position.
That's fair. I was going to say I wouldn't either. I just kind of wanted to see what your thought process would be if they utilize DK in that sort of fashion.
Hey, Deebo doesn't even want to do Deebo stuff anymore, man.
No, he's made that very clear, which I don't blame him.
Nah, they haven't paid him yet.
Yeah. Pay the man. He might be able to, or he might be willing to, but
I'm going to ask you this. Ronald Jones right now, if you look at him at the scope of being the starting caliber running back, there's question marks in Kansas City right now, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire not being on the PUP list. So with his injury history, would you consider rostering Ronald Jones the second as a handcuff? If
I
you
would.
if you picked, okay,
I would. Reason being is because, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like before Leonard Fournette got to Tampa Bay, I thought for sure Ronald Jones was, there. I thought he was the number one option for running back in Tampa Bay.
yeah,
Now, obviously, Leonard Fournette comes along. I don't want to say he throws a wrench in the plans, but Leonard Fournette, he's going to do Leonard Fournette things. I mean, I know his time in Jacksonville was kind of lackluster at best, but I don't put that on Leonard Fournette. So I honestly would feel more comfortable starting Ronald Jones than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, mainly because Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think he's talented.
mm-hmm.
The talent is there. The durability factor is not, though. So
Yeah.
I think I think if I'm Kansas, I think if I'm Andy Reid, I'm talking about starting Ronald Jones over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which I didn't realize I actually put the wrong graphic there for that. Whoops.
No bueno.
Okay, guys.
All right, okay. Let's talk. Let's cap this one off at saying, let's see.
Let's talk our defenses.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I chose Denver obviously because of their talent up in the front seven. Their back four might need a little bit of work, but I think they're going to get a lot of turnovers. They got turnovers at a high rate last year. They're good against the run. They're all right against the pass. They're projected to be pretty good. I took them at 151. So that's just let you know. But they were the top. They were the top suggestion outside of Buffalo. So Buffalo was gone. Buffalo went in round 9. So I just double bagged and I just sat back and waited a little bit, and they fell right into my lap. I just took them. They're good. They're a good, solid defense. I can't take anything from them.
So let me ask you this: when you go to pick a defense,
mm-hmm.
what round do you try to pick a defense in? Like, are you going like those are your last two picks, your defense and your kicker, or?
I kind of sprinkle them in a little bit because they're going to be there after round 8. And I'd say I probably am done doing the majority of the grunt work if I draft well on getting a good starting lineup. So I could step in and still a defense and come back in 2 rounds and still a kicker. But I'd say probably around round 9, maybe 10. I'm looking at defense, especially if the cream of the crop is still available. Then I'd probably take a stab at Buffalo. Buffalo is always going to be I feel this year is going to be my go-to. Their team is just really good. Some people are screaming up the hills for Tampa Bay, but I just don't see it right now.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
For me, whenever I pick a defense, which round 14 for me, I did pick Indy, but typically I do wait until like usually my last 2 picks is my defense and my kicker, which like I said, this was round 14 out of 12-team PPR, so that would have been 168.
Yeah.
So picking up the Colts at pick 168, that's not bad.
They're the 4th in PPR. They're the 4th overall projected defense, and my defense is 12. So you can just see the difference there.
I was going to say, I think we talked about it the last show. I mean, Indy's defense. I mean, they're nothing to
scoff at.
They're nothing to turn your head from. I mean, Darius Leonard, or I'm sorry, it's Shaq Leonard now, right?
Yeah.
Or Shaquille Leonard, yeah.
Shaquille.
Anyway, yeah. The dude's just a very talented defensive player. DeForest Buckner up there at the front, nasty D line. to pick up India 168. That's not a bad thing.
Not at all. But okay. It was one. As we cap this off a little bit, Corey Davis surprised me, and I'll say it like this: I picked up Corey Davis in round 14.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel his 80? Let me look. Let me see where his ADP is as far as injury. I'm also using playerprofiler.com. It's very good. It's a very nice app. I love it. It gives you a lot of insight on the teams to search for. Okay. Corey Davis. Just trying not to take too long with this. Bring it. No, we can go ahead and move to the next slide. I'll just drop this in whenever this profile comes up. All right.
You're good.
At 6. He was wide receiver 69 last year overall. That was his ADP last year. And as we look right now, 2021 was kind of a down year. Only played 9 games, 59 targets, 49 receptions, 492, 11 points per game. He had better production the year prior. Efficiency. Its average ADP is 103. So for me to get him in round 14, do you feel as if that's a product of the quarterback or more of more targets?
I don't know, man. Like, Corey Davis has burned me, quite a few times in leagues that I've picked him up in. Like, I think it's more so because, like, he's always projected to put up so many points, and he kind of just falls flat. And I don't necessarily put it on him. Sometimes with injuries, it's an unfortunate thing. Last year, it was Zach Wilson's rookie year. So, Zach Wilson is still learning the game. And, Corey Davis is having to, catch passes from a rookie QB. So, it's – I don't know. To pick up Corey Davis in round 14, it's kind of a steal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big – but any higher than that, I feel like it's a gamble, honestly. I am looking at his projected stats, though, and he's projected to have a little over 50 catches, 5 touchdowns, and PPR points, or PPR league is projected for 177.
Huh.
So, I don't hate Corey Davis. It's just like I've been burned, too many times from picking him. So I feel like if you're going to pick him up, wait till your later rounds, which you obviously did. Round 14. Yeah. So, is it a good pick at round 14? Probably, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a steal. Now,
if he exceeds his ADP of one, I'm looking at his ADP. It says it's an average of 167. If he exceeds ADP and gets up to maybe wide receiver 30, wide receiver 25, maybe, would you consider? Huh?
Absolutely, I would consider that a heck of a steal at that point. It just depends on what his season looks like and how he's able to produce. The talent level is there.
Mm-hmm.
I think Corey Davis can be a decent talent at the wide receiver position. Mm-hmm. It's got to depend on if he could stay healthy and the development of Zach Wilson from last year to this year.
There you go. Year 2, there's a lot of quarterbacks this year in that year 2 leap. And I hate to say it, but Some of them will not take a step forward. Jets quarterbacks have a history of not taking that next step forward.
Right.
All right. We're going to kind of pick up the pace a little bit. And we're going to go through this non-PPR. As I stated before, it was kind of hard. I got a draft grade of a D. I don't feel as if my draft grade reflected how hard I tried to really decide between many of these guys. It was a very, very hard decision. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but it was just very hard to really kind of comb through and really find talent that you really could feel that could actually help your team. So it was kind of. Whew.
I'll go ahead and tell you my grade though for my team. You want to take a guess?
B-.
A+.
What?
I kid you not, dude. That was at third pick, and I think what kind of sealed it for me was picking up a couple people like later rounds that kind of bumped it up a little bit. Like you see, DeAndre Hopkins is on my bench, right?
Yes.
I picked him up in the 8th.
He's going to be suspended.
He fell that far down because he's going to be suspended for the first, I think, was it 6 games of the season?
Yeah, 6 games.
But I mean, I still wouldn't sleep on him. I mean, for him to fall down to like 8th round,
it would just be a travesty for you not to just say, "Come on over here, I'll take you. Come on."
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, I will be that guy.
Exactly. Now let me tell you my 8th round thing. Get out of all of these players that are on this list. Guess which one I got in the 8th round.
I'm gonna say Drake London.
No, Drake London. I got Drake London in the 12th round.
Oh, nice.
I got Russell Wilson. Gift wrapped and just handed to me. It was me choosing between Russell Wilson, Zach Ertz, Drake London, and another part-time running back. And I just said, I already have Patrick Mahomes, right? So I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, okay, I really don't need a second quarterback when I have Patrick Mahomes. But he's right here. He could become trade value. Even though this is just a mock draft, this was my mindset. He could become trade value after a couple weeks of him producing. I'm just banking on him producing, basically, and being trade capital, because I could go in the waiver wire and pick up a quarterback to start a streamer, but that's trade capital. But I think that bumped up also.
And I think that's why I picked up Trey Lance in the 11th round.
Now
because it's Kyle Shanahan has made it abundantly clear that the San Francisco 49ers is Trey Lance's team now.
Yes,
so it's like, okay, it's either going to help me out to have him on my bench to have as trade value, or if it doesn't pan out the way that it does, I'm not really losing too much.
You know where he's ranked?
I already have Justin Herbert as QB1 for my non-PPR. So
you just taking a flyer?
Yeah.
Because he also can give you a lot more. I'm sorry, Justin Herbert is a great quarterback, but there's limitations to his game that aren't the same to the potential that Trey Lance has. He's going as QB 14 off the board as of today. So
I was going to say, I think I saw that actually.
He is bumping up the boards for a lot of people. I've been listening to the CBS podcast and also couple of NFL podcasts, but the consensus is people are really believing in him a lot more because he's been given the keys. As of Tuesday, he's been given the keys, and so it's really gonna pick up as the preseason goes along, and you see any shed of uber talent in him. So I'm banking on him early to be that guy. I may not pick him in every league, because you have to mix it up a little bit, but he is going to get picked a lot this year. I can say I picked him last year as a flyer. I didn't get as much production out of him, but they still hadn't pulled off the Jimmy Garoppolo Band-Aid. So that Band-Aid has officially been pulled off. Now the scab's going to get a chance to heal. We're going to see what really, if he can make a 2-year league, that's another 2-year, second-year candidate right there. Can he take that step forward in a Kyle Shanahan built offense? He's never been able to get his quarterback. Let's see if he's got it.
I was going to say, I think he can. I think Trey Lance can, be that guy this year. It just depends on, the weapons around him. Because I'm looking at numbers of other players like for the running back, Elijah Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's see. For non-PPR, he's projected at 188.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's decent for, non-PPR running back numbers. And then, Deebo Samuel, I mean, let's face it, it's Deebo Samuel. So,
there you go.
His numbers are going to be looking pretty decent as well. So, I think Trey Lance can do it. It's just, is he going to get consistency out of the weapons around him, which Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, and if George Kittle can stay healthy, I think that will determine what kind of season Trey Lance has.
I like that. I like that. Let's kind of quickly go through your first 5 rounds.
Okay, so 12-team, non-PPR, pick 3 and 10. 3 in the first round, 10 second round, so on and so forth. First pick for me was Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Second pick was Deebo Samuel. Third pick was Mike Evans. My fourth pick, which I had to look for a running back, so J.K. Dobbins was there.
Okay.
And fifth was Justin Herbert.
Okay. All right.
How about you?
I had the fourth pick, so I took Austin Eckler. Then I came back in the second round and took Deebo A.J. Brown. Then I came back and got Deebo Samuels. I think I went pretty wide receiver heavy because I got Rashad Penny in the 6th round, so I may have gotten Brandon Cooks. No. Okay. Yes, I got it. So I got Austin Eckler first. Then I went and got A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Rashad Penny.
Okay.
I kind of went with the flyer and Austin Eckler because he is going to get consistent touches. So I won't get the PPR points for his pass catching ability. So that kind of gives him a knock a little bit, but he was the best one out there. Someone snatched Cooper Kupp up from me before I had a chance to get to him because I was going to pick Cooper Kupp. I just really feel solidly in Cooper Kupp's ability to be the best wide receiver on that team. So, but I took Rashad Penny, obviously, because as of right now, he's RB1 as long as he can stay healthy. I'm going to give him, I think he's going to have a little bit more leash since Chris Carson's gone. So the split's going to be a little bit more in his favor unless Kenny Walker comes along and just knocks him over the head and takes it all from him. Deebo, I'm banking on Trey Lance again, man. I'm drinking the Trey Lance Kool-Aid. AJ Brown's clear number one, and he's just. I've talked about him ad nauseum, so just if you want to know how I feel about him, just go back to our wide receiver preseason rankings, and you'll get a great spiel on how I feel about AJ Brown. But you can't. And 5th round, Rashad Penny. Like I said, I just had to take that chance. Oh,
I was
Patrick
going to say,
Mahomes, 5th round. Sorry.
Rashard Penny, I did pick him up too, but I got him around 6. So, round 5, round 6. I think that's a good spot for Rashard Penny. I mean, we don't know what the season's going to look like for him. I'm sure Seattle's kind of like, I don't want to say in panic mode, obviously, but they are kind of like, trusting Rashad Penny and don't want to risk the chance of injury right now. So, do I think he's going to have a great year? Probably, but it'll depend on if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. Most value out of the first 5 rounds.
For you?
For you.
Oh, I mean, I think I got a great value in Derrick Henry at pick 3. Like with, I don't know, man. Some people are still banking on Christian McCaffrey being RB1, like in like the spreadsheet that I use. Like for non-PPR, Christian McCaffrey is still projected to have 325 points, and that's RB1 overall. And then Derrick Henry picking him up at 3. Jonathan Taylor went 2, by the way, but I feel like in your non-PPR league, since Derrick Henry is, in my opinion, more of that traditional type of running back.
Yes.
He's gonna exceed well in your non-PPR leagues because he's either going to run over you, not run around you, and get touchdowns and get a lot of yards. So is he aging? Yeah. So I think I hate to say it, but I think this is probably going to be the final great year for Derrick Henry. Not that he's not going to have a good year next year and years beyond that, but I mean,
it just won't be
with running backs. Yeah, with any running back, I mean, the older they get, the more mileage there is. I mean, look at Adrian Peterson. A lot of years he was, running back number 1, and then kind of just fell off the wagon just because of the wear and tear. Same with I can't even think of any other good running backs off the top of my head right now. But yeah, it's just I feel like I got a great value in Derrick Henry, picking him up at 3, and picking up Deebo Samuel at where did I pick him up? No, I picked him up at 4 or in my 4th round. So picking up Deebo Samuel in the 4th round, that was actually a good steal as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mike Evans, I know I haven't touched on him yet because he wasn't in my first 5 picks. He was actually round 7.
Oh,
so I think I got a heck of a steal with Mike Evans as well.
There you go. I wanted to point out something that happened in my non-PPR draft, which kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I got Zach Moss in round 15.
I saw that.
And it was kind of weird to get him that low. And it was just another one of those situations where I just had to pick him because he clearly is going to be in the rotation some kind of way, especially if Devin Singletary kind of doesn't get it together. He did start the season on the PUP list, the training camp on the PUP list, but I think they have to do a little bit more with his conditioning than anything else. But he clearly has a fit in the scheme. And I just couldn't pass up on that. But round 15, I just looked at it. I was like, really? He's here? It's a running back? I'll take him. Because there could be opportunity. Go ahead.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, the Bills do have James Cook as part of that rotation now. And not that Zach Moss isn't like a decent running back. I mean, he gets points like every couple games or so throughout the season. He'll get you a decent amount of points. But
those goal line touches.
Do up.
those goal line touches.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. But I don't know. I think that's kind of what brings him down a little bit, is because you're going to have Devin Singletary coming back. James Cook is coming in,
Mm-hmm.
which James Cook, James Cook is pretty much the same type of player that Dalvin Cook is. Let's just hope that he could stay healthier than what Dalvin does from time to time.
There you go.
So, which I think he will, and I think that's kind of what brings Zach Moss down a little bit. But the fact that you picked him up around 15,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not really losing anything, and if
No.
he happens to exceed expectations, it's good. It's a good pickup in my book.
If you look at the last 4 picks that on my list, I think my worst one was J.D. McKissick because he is a change of pace receiver back. He's only going to be worth anything, and that catches touchdown passes, obviously. But it was J.D. McKissick, Corey Davis, Zach Moss, and my last pick was Jameson Williams. And I feel like I got the best value out of Jameson Williams just purely because of the upside.
I was going to say, let me see if I can pull up his numbers real quick, or his projected numbers. Yeah, he's actually projected not great numbers for non PPR. I mean, 105. I mean, it's not anything that's going to make a difference, or like it's not like anything that's going to stand out. But I mean, if you can find a decent week where the Lions are going up against a weaker opponent, and let's just say DeAndre Swift is out or anything like that, have Jamal Williams in there. I mean, that's gonna make a difference.
No. This is Jameson Williams, a wide receiver.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the wrong one then. My bad. Yeah, I don't actually have him on my spreadsheet. That's weird. So let me look him up real quick. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, that's a good pickup. What round did you say you picked him up in?
I picked him up last. Round 16.
Wow. So yeah, that's actually a decent pickup, especially because DeAndre Swift, we all know his history in the league so far. He can't really stay the healthiest. So even if you have Jamal Williams and Jameson Williams kind of have a 1-2 punch, Jameson Williams can get you some decent points for sure.
That's what I'm kind of banking on, him just being that guy. He's gonna have to get adjusted to playing in the NFL. Obviously, he's coming off a major injury, so many people may not have high hopes for him. But me being me, the potential is there. And if he's at round 16 and he never makes it on the field, I'm okay with that because he's picked 16. But if he's able to come in and establish himself as a serviceable number 2, or even overthrow Amari St. Brown for the number 1 spot, then that will be my keeper in my keeper leagues for next year.
Right.
So you turn in players from coal into gold into diamonds right now. You gotta do a little bit. So I'm always a proponent for reaching for flyers late in the round. People who are injured, players who may not necessarily be on a team, like you did with DeAndre Hopkins, or he's suspended. Or you might have Odell Beckham hanging in the wings, even though he's signed to a team now. Things of that nature. Players that you feel have ability to turn the needle a little bit, even if it's just bringing themselves up from wide receiver 100 to wide receiver 60 or 45 or 30. And I feel like he has potential to be in the top 30 because he is fast and he can catch. You saw that in Alabama. He is fast and he can catch.
was going to say I was looking up the wrong position for Jameson Williams. I did find him eventually. Regular non PPR points or standard non PPR, he's projected for 129, and PPR he's projected for 184. But I can see the talent,
I
especially
think so.
since things in the wide receiver core for Detroit is, I don't want to say shaky, but they haven't been consistent on a year to year basis outside of TJ Hawkinson. But
There you
you
go.
know, we'll
Yeah, but
see. But
yeah,
the fact that you picked him up as late as you did, that's actually a good value.
you gotta kind of have to look for it because on fantasy draft calculator it shows him being the 65th wide receiver overall, going in round 14, along with Corey Davis, uh, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Jones, Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, Van Jefferson, um, Jameson Crowder, and Jahan Dotson. And George Pickens is also down there too. So those are a lot of the guys who really won't move the needle. But if I had to look at the best parts of that group with potential, would be Tyler Boyd, Jameson Williams, and my pick would be Van Jefferson. You know, but you see how
Mhm.
far down on the totem pole they are. But Amari
Oh
St.
yeah,
Brown is going in the eighth round too as well. So going in the eighth round, which is it's a little bit better, but he's still a late round flyer in my book. But I think it has more to do with the quarterback play. Um, so it's going to be a little bit
yeah, I
difficult.
think it does too.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to kind of make their case to be the quote unquote top guys for their team if the sports media doesn't believe in their quarterback, Jared Goff. I believe in him to be a serviceable quarterback. They improved their offensive line. They gave him more weapons. Do I think he can replicate the Super Bowl year? Maybe not, but I'm pretty sure he can give you something better than Carson Wentz could give you.
Oh yeah, and I listen. I know we've talked about Jared Goff a little bit in previous
Mm.
episodes, and you know, I'll admit I've kind of taken my shots at him, but NFC North rival, I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah,
And it's not so much that he's a bad quarterback. He's not bad. It's just I
he
always
just
I always compare him to like Andy Dalton a little bit.
mhm.
And the reason I say that is because Andy Dalton, when he was in Cincinnati, in the early parts of his career, you know, he did have some glimpses of being an elite quarterback. Not saying that he was, but I think he could have been. And I kind of feel that way about Jared Goff. You have those glimpses of he could do some great things, but people often outweigh that stuff or take that away because of the inconsistency type of play that happens. And
Yeah,
I think that's kind of why Jared Goff kind of gets a bad rap, like more than what he deserves.
yeah. If he could be a little bit more consistent and eliminate the mental mistakes, he'd be a much better quarterback. Um, so that's really the only knock. The mental side of football for him is really what holds him back. It's really what holds back a lot of quarterbacks with a lot of potential is
Oh yeah.
their inability to really process deep into the game. And so, can you really teach them at this stage in his career, or can you really just try to manage it? I think that'd be a better chance of trying to manage him,
Hmm.
and he just has to respect the role that he's given. And he wasn't able to do that with the Rams. And I just think it's a simpler offense. I think he has a better chance. He's had to go down that hard road. I think he's going to take the Ryan Tannehill approach to getting back to being a starting caliber quarterback and just allowing the coach to just manage the game for him. Some people need their offensive coordinator to help manage because it takes kind of the stress of the processing and breaking things down. You know, so They have tablets, man. I hope he just can get it together.
Right.
Overall, I don't like my D grade for my draft, but I kind of can see that I kind of still, even though I was drafting for non PPR, I still kind of played it kind of PPR ish, and I think that's got a little bit my downfall. But I wouldn't really feel bad running out with this as my non PPR or PPR. I think feel pretty good about it, actually.
I was going to say, it's not a bad team. I mean, with mine, I think things just kind of fell into place, and I think that's kind of why I got my A plus, grading, because like for rounds 9 and 10, yeah, I think it was 9 and 10. I was able to pick up both my tight ends and Dallas Goddard and Dawson Knox, because I mean, I'll admit, when I was picking my team, and I'm going through trying to pick up teams where I know they're going to be like, I'm trying to pick up more like goal line types of or like red zone types of yeah. And players that are going to get yards.
Yes.
Yeah. And players that are going to get me yards on the ground. I was just like, crap, I haven't picked a tight end yet. So the fact that I was able to get Dallas Goddard and then go and get Dawson Knox afterwards.
Yes.
Are they going to put up like outstanding numbers? No. But they're a reliable.
Dallas Goddard will. I think he'll be the clear. I think he'll be the clear option in the middle, which is something that I think Jalen Hurts kind of lives by a little bit. AJ Brown may take a little bit of his reps, but I still think he'll get those seam passes. He'll get the touchdown. He'll get the red zone touches, here and there. So I feel like his ability to do good. Dawson Knox is obviously touchdown dependent, so you know what you're going for. You're filling a spot, and that's the same thing I did with Zach Ertz. Your Dawson Knox is my Zach Ertz. I wanted a touchdown dependent guy who could break off and make some good plays downfield. I think I did a pretty good job. I guess there's a lot of potential. There's a lot more I could have done. Like really get a clear cut backup running back, which I think I kind of failed to do, but I think it's pretty good.
Let's see, your defense, you went with the Buffalo Bills. I went with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos, I picked. Huh?
Go ahead.
I was going to say Denver Broncos. I kind of picked them for the same reason like you picked them for. Their secondary, I think, is going to have an outstanding year as far as forcing turnovers or getting interceptions and so on and so forth. So I think that's why I picked them. I mean, I think they were what, the number one team last year for fantasy, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they might have been neck and neck with the Bills. I think the Bills were the number one overall defense and the number one fantasy.
Yeah, you're right.
And obviously, I did jump in the 7th round and pick them. So I did make that change in my non PPR because I knew here that is having a good defense and a good kicker are more necessary than in PPR because their points matter a lot more because they're harder to come by. Younghoe Koo is the second best kicker last
year. See, I was torn because for my last pick, which I always pick a kicker last, and it was it was a toss-up between Tyler Bass and Younghoe Koo, and I went with Tyler Bass because I kind of have more faith in Buffalo's offense than Atlanta's. Not saying that anything bad about Atlanta's offense, but you look at the QB situation in Buffalo, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to surprise a little people. I might be sounding a little biased, but I think they're going to surprise people more with defense than offense.
I hope so.
But,
for me, I think that's why I went with Tyler Bass is because, I mean, Josh Allen is going to get a bunch of, touchdowns this year, whether it's through the air or on the ground, one or the other. And, that gives a lot of extra point PAT, whatever situations for Tyler Bass.
Yeah. Well, I really like this episode today. I really got like the chance to be able to kind of break down the different formats. Hopefully we were able to help you guys kind of better understand this a little bit. We'll go a little bit more in depth in ADP and sleepers, risers and fallers as the preseason goes along. But this was a good base. I want to do this again before the regular season starts.
Oh, absolutely. Same here.
You know, so we can get both perspectives, and we'll actually tag these and see what changes have been made. Cause I'm pretty sure they're going to be a lot. Training camp and preseason usually dictates the starting lineup for week one. We all know this. It's nothing new, but I like this. Next week, do you wanna do? We kind of brushed over a little bit of ADP this week. What do you want to do next week?
I don't know. I think we should talk about like some. I think we could probably do another like draft maybe, and then maybe talk about the differences there, and maybe touch on teams, how teams are doing after training camp. Maybe how teams are feeling about certain players, so on and so forth.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the beats in the streets, man. Hopefully, I'll get to posting some training camp videos on our Twitter handle as well at Jocks of All Trades, and also my Twitter handle. Don't judge it, at Jimmy2Sacks. We're gonna put down some stats for you guys to kind of keep you up to date when things move. I'm gonna start my pup list on Twitter and continuously update it for fantasy value purposes. I think that might be.
Well, hold on. Before we go, since our last show, there was an interesting development, quote unquote, that we haven't talked about yet. I kind of want to get your insight on it before we sign off for the night.
Oh, go
so
right ahead.
It's no secret. It's no secret. Baker Mayfield finally traded. He was finally traded. He went to the Panthers. How do you think he'll do in Carolina?
I think he'll get an opportunity to shine. Honestly, I think he'll get an opportunity to kind of take the another quarterback taking the Ryan Tannehill approach to revamping his career. I think he feels that he was a scapegoat for Cleveland. Cleveland was a bad offense, and they blamed a lot of their problems on him when I think it was really a lot to do with their play calling in general. But I digress. I think Carolina is going to get a new start. Is he better than Sam Darnold? Yes. But is he good enough to be quarterback in the NFC? Time will tell. I think he's pretty good. I'm not going to say pretty good. If I had to scale of 1 to 10 on quarterbacks, I give him about a 7.5. He has some mechanics issues.
Yeah.
He also has issues with decision making, which kind of makes it kind of hard to gauge what he can do for you on the field. Will he have the talent to throw to? I hate to say it, DJ Moore is uber consistent as wide receiver 1. Robbie Anderson is pretty good as well. How long he'll have Christian McCaffrey kind of is going to base what their offense does in passing and running, because Chuba Hubbard is their backup right now. So I don't know. Over under. How many wins do you think Baker Mayfield gives the Panthers?
I'm gonna go crazy here. I'm gonna say he gives him 10 wins this year.
Ooh, Lord have mercy.
The reason why I say that is, listen, I like Baker Mayfield. He has that, winner's mentality. He wants to win. He is a true competitor. Now, is he a winner? I mean, he played in Cleveland. He led them to their first playoff appearance and win a couple years back since like the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to win. He's a competitor. I think he has great mentality going into Carolina with that situation, and he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think he can. I think he can lead them to a 10-win season.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to let you know they are projected to have the 12th toughest schedule. And if I get a deep dive really quickly, Noah, add wall. Okay. Um, Let me look at their schedule really quickly. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm actually looking up his projections for this year, anyway, so that kind of works out.
All right, they preseason. Not looking at preseason. Let's look at regular season. They start off with, coincidentally, they start off their first game on 9/11 playing the Rams, the Giants, then the Saints, then they play Carolina. The Cardinals, 49ers, and then the Rams, and then they round it out by playing the Buccaneers. So their first maybe 3 games are winnable. Very, in my eyes, very winnable. Outside of any surprise of Jameis Winston and the Saints, or I would say if Deshaun Watson played Week 1, the Panthers probably wouldn't beat the Browns. But I think he's got a pretty decent. I think he will start 3-0. Me personally, I think he's more of 7, 8 wins. Because, like I said before, a lot of what their offense does this year, their team does this year, is going to be based off of how much they can get out of Christian McCaffrey,
Right.
and how consistent their offense can run with or without him. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be more without him than with him.
I was going to say, I'm looking at his projections. They have him ranked as the 25th quarterback, so latter part of the league, which I get. I understand that one. He's projected to have 27 passing touchdowns, 3,600 yards, a decent amount of rushing yards. Nothing that's going to be game-changing. They're a decent amount. And he's projected to have 256 points. So it's not necessarily anything you want out of a QB1 for any league or any fantasy league. But, say your main quarterback is out for a week, has the bye week, and then if you feel comfortable, go ahead and start Baker Mayfield for a game.
Yeah. Well, as the time will tell, we will definitely see how that one plays out. But I think they have him as their QB1. So I think he is going to beat out Sam Darnold for the starting job. I think Sam Darnold should have never been drafted. Bad quarterback. Well, not really bad quarterback, just bad situation to start in. I don't really think his career should have started with the Jets. That's a black hole. But I digress. As we move on, I just want to say it's a great episode. I really like us chopping it up about these picks, and I really look forward. We got 5 more weeks, bud, until the NFL season starts, and I am ready to win some fantasy leagues this year. But we're going to get better at this, guys. We're going to get better at our ADP. We're going to get better non-PPR, PPR, half PPR. We're continuing to evolve this podcast. We're going to give you guys every bit of information that you guys will need to create a successful league, team, whatever, dynasty league. But as we sign off, again, I'm your buddy, Plugman Jay.
I'm Matt.
And this is Armchair GMs, brought to you by Jocks of All Trades podcast. You guys have a good night.
Take care, y'all.